Hello, the weather's horrible outside, so I thought I'd do a video on the Warsaw PACT gas masks. Now, this is certainly not every Warsaw PACT gas mask, because there's absolutely loads that have been made. And in this video I'm particularly not doing Russian masks, or Soviet masks, because that would be an even longer video still. And with Soviet masks there's so many variations that would be, really, really long, so it deserves its own video. So, as I said, this isn't a complete list. I actually have even more gas masks in this that I'm not including because the video would take too long. But this is a look at some of the masks used by the Warsaw Pact satellite states. For those of you that don't know, the Warsaw Pact was the Soviet Union's version of NATO, and it comprised most of Eastern Europe. It was East Germany, was one of the primary members, Poland, Czechoslovakia, obviously the Soviet Union being the main backing force of it, and then lots and lots of the other sort of Eastern European countries such as Romania, Bulgaria, things like that. So what I'm just going to do in this video is show you some of the masks they used and how they have a kind of similar trend to them. Now, on the very right of the frame you should see the GP5 like mask. This is the Polish version of the M41. I think it's called the OM14, and that's also very similar to the East German. I think it's SCHM41 or SCHM41 or something like that. I don't actually have that one. That's the one a lot of people have, the big brown coffee can filter. This has the sort of more rectangular EO14 filter. Now, I imagined that most of the Warsaw Pact countries would have used something similar to this, because I think at least the Russians use this for quite a while. Obviously, it's a very familiar looking mask to people who collect gas masks, because it's basically the same mask that was used as the design for the GP5 later on. From my understanding, as the name M41 would imply, around 1941 the Russians went to a mask that was very similar to this, and then either the Soviet Union continued to manufacture these masks with slight differences to them, because I've at least seen videos of Russian soldiers wearing masks very similar to that, or at least the Warsaw Pact countries later on started using them under the designation of 41. So that's just my idea on it. I'm sure somebody will be able to tell me that in the comments who knows a lot about these masks, but anyway, if you're standardising equipment, I imagine all of them would have used a mask like this. It's the GOST 40mm filter port. This one's connected to a massive sort of canister filter, but you could put the infantry type filters on, and it obviously works. There's no voice diaphragm on it or anything like that. But the interesting thing is, a lot of the Warsaw Pact countries didn't use standard Russian equipment. Although most of them, are standardised with AKs and 7.62 by 39mm, later on 5.45 by 39mm. They used all the Soviet equipment in that sense, but they are actually quite, varied in what they had for masks. So what we're going to do is have a look at them. And what you might have already noticed before I start putting it out is a lot of these masks were actually, rip-offs or clones or alterations of designs of masks used by America or Western European countries, where they'd obviously seen the masks and sort of backwards engineered them to varying, effectiveness, which is quite interesting to look at. So we're going to start at the left and work our way right, and we'll give you a bit of information on the masks. Some of these are sort of quite interesting and bizarre. And as I said, this is not a complete list. I could make this video go on for about an hour if I dug out all of my Warsaw Warsaw Pact sort of Eastern European masks from the time period and went on about them. And even then, there's lots of masks I don't have in my collection. I've seen, that some of these countries used briefly as well, or certain divisions of the army, or they prototype tested them, whatever else. So let's start at the left before I ramble on for too long and work our way right. So, on the very left, we have the Polish MC1, I believe it's called, and the Polish MP4 Bulldog. And you'll notice the mask on the right is an American M17 clone or rip-off, same as the Czech M10M to its right. Now, the MC1 is interesting because this mask was also used by Czechoslovakia under a different designation. I can't remember what that one is, or maybe I'm confusing the Polish one with the, Czech one, but I'm pretty sure that was CM3. Yeah, that was definitely CM3 in Czechoslovakia, and it's pretty sure MC1, with Poland. So that's a really simple mask. I wouldn't really want to use one, but what I'm going to do in a minute is pop it on for you and let you have a better look at it. But it's basically a very simple mask. 40mm filter goes in at the bottom, you've got an exhale valve, sort of pseudo voice diaphragm there, and you know, you've got your face piece. It would work very well. It sort of reminds me design wise of the German World War II gas masks. I think they probably went for that sort of design. Again, it's effective, but it's a very simple mask, and because it's so lightweight and the filters tend to be heavier, it's not a great mask design, because that means it's more likely to pull itself off of your face. But for all accounts and purposes, if you needed to make a mask, it would work. So then, if we swing right a bit, if I would just adjust my tripod to let me swing right, we've got the Polish, I think it was MP4 Bulldog, and then the Czech M10M on the right. And both of these, as you can see, are M17 type clones. They have cheek filters in. I also have a Bulgarian mask, which I haven't got out at the moment, which is the same sort of design. Now, the Czech M10M is definitely the best of the M17 clones. It's a really well-made mask. And, not of interest, the Czech carry satchel I've got for this one is definitely the best gas mask bag I have in my collection, and it's a shame I haven't been able to find those bags separately on eBay or anything, because I'd actually like to buy some of those bags as general use satchels. It's kind of that really good rubberized sort of canvas stuff that is obviously waterproof, and it's kept the bag in really good condition. It's obviously quite durable and strong. So, cheek filter masks are generally a bad idea. The reason being it's quite hard to actually put the filters in initially. And you can't take the filters out without taking a mask off in the contaminated environment, so you can't replace the filter when it starts to get blocked up. So it's not a good design. I said the 60 or 40mm filter that's removable is a much better design, because you can take it on and off in the field, and you can stockpile a lot of them. I think the idea was it was a lighter weight filter to have on the mask, but it's really impractical compared to just having a simple screw on, screw off filter that you can use instead. So the mask on the right is the Czech CM4. So as I was saying, they had the CM3 beforehand, which was the mask here, the Czech version of it, not the Polish version. So they replaced this one essentially with this one. Now, from what I understand, their military was using this mask and maybe that other mask at the same time. They hadn't, completely standardised the mask. Interestingly enough, East Germany used a variant of the M10M as well, so you see with a lot of these countries that they either gave or sold their mask designs to each other, or maybe they just cycled stock around to each other as well. So, out of all of them, CM4 is actually the most practical we've looked at so far, because the CM4 is basically a copy of the Draeger M65, very similar mask. It's very practical. It has the same sort of design flaw that the M65 has, where the chin area doesn't make quite a good, doesn't make a great seal on the face. So with the Czech CM4, it means that basically, you have to be quite careful what you're doing, or you could break the seal on the mask and let gas in. But other than that, it's a very good design. Again, it takes 40mm GOST filters. NATO filters also seem to fit it fine. So, it's a lot more practical than the other masks. Instead of cheek filters, you got something made of very sort of similar rubber and quality, but this one was, a standard mask where you could take the filters on and off. Interesting, the CM5, which came later, and I don't have one of those in my collection, was a lot more modern looking, with bells and whistles. And then on the right, we have the Polish sort of, I think it's OM14 they called it, I might be getting the number wrong, but it's an M41 type mask. Very practical. As I've said, it's a GP5 style mask, sort of latex hood, where you just stretch it over your head. You then use it with either a filter screwed directly to the mask or a canister filter attached to the satchel, like I've done there. And as said, it's very, very practical. Now, to demonstrate these masks, what I'm going to do is put a safe filter on, as I showed in the other video the other day. I've bought these. Some of them, they're basically Polish filters that Poland used after the Soviet Union collapsed, and they weren't a Warsaw PACT member. They built these so they're sort of GOST filters, but made to a NATO standard, so it would work with their old masks, but they were, much safer and better quality filters than the old Soviet type ones. So I'm going to run you through the masks now. For the video, because we've mentioned about asbestos before being in these masks, as I said, when I'm using a 40mm filter mask, that will be going on. But for safety reasons, I won't be wearing these. I've worn this one before in a few other videos, but, you know, as I said, for safety reasons, I won't be wearing it just in case there's anything dodgy in the filter. But, as I said, cheek filter masks were used by America as the M17. Lots of other countries copied the design, and lots of other countries, obviously, as well as America, said we need to change back to a canister filter type mask. So, let's run through them. So, the Polish MC1 or Czech CM3. As you can see, it's, as I said, practical enough. It's not a comfortable mask to have on. It sort of pinches the side of your head. Vision isn't great because the mask doesn't actually sit close enough to your face. The goggles sort of sit about that far away from your eyes, how it's designed. As I said, it would save your life. It's a practical enough mask. They at least use 40mm filters on it, not the cheap filters that they used in the other masks. But, you know, it's not a brilliantly designed mask by any sense, but if it's all you've got, it would save your life with a filter on, which is the point of the mask. So, it worked. If it was cheap to make, it did its job, but I'd say this is the least practical of all of my 40mm masks. To me, the French M41 is like the NATO equivalent of what this mask is. It would just about do the job, but I wouldn't really want to be wearing one. Now the Czech CM4. As I said, this is one of my favourite of these sort of design masks. It's based heavily on the Draeger M65, so most of the good points from that mask carry over to this mask, although it does feel a bit more cheaply made. But as I said, it's a big improvement from the last mask we saw, and it's a 40mm filter mask. Very practical. The voice diaphragm obviously works quite well for what it is, and it seems to be made, as I said, from the same sort of rubber as this mask. It feels like exactly the same to touch. So they basically used the same materials to make it, which works fine. And as I said, as a replacement for this mask, it seems very practical because it's got, you know, a proper filter on it, not cheek filters, and it's a lot more comfortable, better seal, you know, than the other mask. So it's a much better choice if you had to wear one of these. Now, the interesting thing before I put this mask on, it looks like it's dated 1988, so I'm guessing Poland realised that their lighter weight mask and the sort of cheek filter mask wasn't as good as just simply having a GP5 type mask. So they probably just said to East Germany or the Russians, can we copy your M41, or they just did it anyway. So, here we go.
So, easy mask to put on, the most practical, no straps, you just pull it on, it pulls tight to your face. As said, there's no actual sort of voice diaphragm, so you just have to talk quite loud and hope the other person can see you. But if you want a cheap practical mask, this is basically the way to go, because unlike the other masks, I at least think it makes a very good airtight seal, and it's obviously very cheap to produce because the world's most produced gas mask, the GP5, was made using this exact same method. It had a different sort of intake exhale port on the GP5, probably much cheaper to make one, but the mask primarily is the exact same thing. A latex hood with eyes stitched on and attached to a sort of already designed intake-outtake valve. So, all sort of practicalities, this is a very good mask, but obviously really you want one with a voice diaphragm on and a few other modern features. So, out of all the masks, I think this one is the most practical one, but this at least was within cheap to produce and have done its job, I think, well enough. Whereas some of the other masks, you know, like cheap filter masks, aren't that practical. And as I've said, I've got even more Warsaw PACT masks in my collection. Showing them all and talking about them would take far too long to do in a single video. And Soviet masks is the entire, you know, different thing, because there's just so many Soviet masks to talk about, with variations of design and different designs, that it wouldn't be practical for one video. I'll do that as my next mask video, to go through lots of the Soviet masks and show how they vary from each other and everything. So, hope you found this interesting. If you like this sort of video, please like and subscribe to my channel. It's great to help me out if you want to watch all these videos. You'll find lots more videos on gas mask here, and hope you had fun with it.